Hey everyone, before I get started with today's show, I want to give a warm welcome to all my new listeners. This is actually the last episode of my second season, so while I invite you to stick with me, you should know that this is a little bit different from what I normally do. For something a bit more typical, you might want to start with my recent episode about the medicine man I followed in Peru, or check out the one about the guy I met who's traveled around the world making balloon hats for people. And if you're looking for a series to binge, you should go back to the very beginning and listen to my first season, where I told the story of an 11,000-mile, 18-country road trip that I took from London all the way to Mongolia in a really tiny car. Thanks for joining me on my adventures. Okay, here's the show. This is Far From Home. I'm Scott Gurian. So here we are at the end of my second season, and I'm thrilled so many of you have stuck with me throughout all my travels over the past 6 months. Stay tuned until the end of the show for more info about my future plans, but first, here's today's episode. It's a short one this time, but I think you'll enjoy it. Wherever you are in the world, many of you listening are probably celebrating Christmas or Hanukkah and the start of the new year, but I wanted to tell you about another holiday that takes place around now that I had the privilege of experiencing many years ago. It's called Junkanoo, and it's a tradition on several islands in the Caribbean that was started by slaves in the 18th century. Nowadays, Junkanoo is a giant annual festival where participants spend all night parading through the streets. The largest and most well-known of the celebrations happens in the Bahamas, so that's where I'm going to take you today. I'm standing in Parliament Square, just off Bay Street in Nassau in the Bahamas. As I'm recording this, it's 2 a.m. on Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, and usually the streets would be pretty quiet at this time of night. But this is the first morning of the annual Junkanoo celebration, so the party's just getting started. I'm looking out here on tons of people lining the streets along barricades, and groups of people wearing colorful costumes made of cardboard and crepe paper, dancing through the streets and playing music. I spoke to a few people to get a sense of just what the Junkanoo's about.
My name is Ricardo Holmes. Junkanoo is a festival to celebrate the freedom of slaves. Junkanoo was a slave from West Africa, and he came in during the slavery time. He was a leader in the slave revolt against the slave masters. They had freedom 2 times of the year, which is Boxing Day and New Year's Day. So they beat the drums and had a lot of dance and all that to celebrate life. And it has evolved over a period of years and years into something great as it is now.
My name is Kishlaine O'Brien. There's no other parade in the world like Junkanoo, with the colors, with the majesty of paper. Think about it. A Junkanoo costume is made out of just cardboard and crepe paper with some glue. It speaks for the element of surprise, but also the creativity of the Bahamian people. And so Junkanoo means a lot to me. It allows us to express ourselves in ways unknown.
My name is Selvin Rohn. I'm a part of the Saxons Junkanoo group in Nassau. The basic instruments are cowbells, goatskin drum, sousaphone, trombone, saxophones. I describe it as an orchestra. You would hear the best music that you have ever heard in your life. It cannot be duplicated.
Junkanoo is the feeling, Junkanoo is the drums, Junkanoo is the pulsating of the cowbells, the whistles, the horn. Junkanoo is the greatest show on earth. That's the only way to describe it.
The people in the country, they look forward to it every Christmas. If they don't get to go to Junkanoo, they feel as if they haven't had a Christmas.
Junkanoo is authentic to the Bahamas. It's our expression. It is what we are known for and by. When you hear the music, you have to move. Music is that science that makes you just express all the passions and stuff that's within you. And that's what Junkanoo does to you. It comes from the heart.
It's been about a decade since I originally produced a version of this story for a radio program called The World. And I have to say, listening back to this music now just makes me so happy. I mean, it's hard for it not to bring a smile to my face. The 2 Junkanoo parades in Nassau, the capital of the Bahamas, take place in the early morning hours of December 26th and January 1st each year. If you ever get the chance to experience them for yourself, I highly recommend it. In the meantime, follow me on Instagram at Far From Home Podcast or visit my website at farfromhomepodcast.org to see some great photos and videos my brother Drew took of the festivities. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that parts of the Bahamas are still recovering from the awful devastation of Hurricane Dorian a few months ago, so I've linked to a couple of organizations if you'd like to make a donation to help. As I said at the beginning of this show, this is the final episode of this season of Far From Home. I'm going to take a break over the next few months to do some traveling and gather more stories for the next season. But don't worry, I'll be back in the spring, so make sure you stay subscribed. In the meantime, I'll be popping up in your feed from time to time, sharing stories from some other great shows I like. If you enjoyed some of the adventures I've taken you on, please share the podcast love by spreading the word about this program, posting about it on social media, or telling a friend. And remember to rate or review Far From Home in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to help others find the show. Also, if you live somewhere interesting in the world or have any story ideas for me, please drop me a line and let me know. You can reach me at info@farfromhomepodcast.org. As I've mentioned since the beginning of this series, I want to thank the Public Radio Exchange for podcast hosting and technical support. Far From Home's logo comes from Polemic, which designs award-winning experiences all over the world at the intersection of culture, commerce, and community. Find out how they could help your business at polemicdesign.com. Until next time, stay tuned, and thanks for listening.